Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to tonight's planning and community consultation meeting. And before we start, if there's anybody in the gallery, I'll just say Happy International Left-Handers Day. That's one of the quirks of today that I've discovered. We have got a few left-handed people here in our council, which is a good thing. So to start the meeting, I would like to welcome everybody here. I'd just like to advise you that our meeting is being live streamed. It's being held in a live stream environment so that the community are able to watch the proceedings tonight live, and the meeting will be available as a recorded form on Council's website and YouTube. This meeting is being held in accordance with our governance rules, our meeting procedures, which were adopted on the 25th of July 2023. We've got a number of speakers in the room tonight. I don't believe there's anybody that's speaking virtually. Everybody's here in person, which is great. It's lovely to be able to see you in person. I'll invite each of the speakers to address the committee in the order that we received your nomination to speak. And the Director of Governance will promote each speaker to the panel if there was somebody online, but there actually isn't anybody online, so we won't need to worry about that. So I'd like to do an acknowledgement to start the meeting. An acknowledgement to country. Nillumbik Shire respectfully acknowledges the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional owners of the country on which Nillumbik is located. And we value the significance of the Wurundjeri people's history as essential to the unique character of the Shire. We pay tribute to all First Nations people living in Nillumbik. We give respect to elders past, present and future, and we extend that respect to all First Nations people. We respect the enduring strength of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and acknowledge the ongoing impacts of past trauma and injustices from European invasion, massacres and genocide committed against First Nations people. We acknowledge also that sovereignty was never ceded. Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people hold a deep and ongoing connection to this place. We value the instinctive contribution that they've made to our community in many fields, including academia, agriculture, art, economics, law, sport and politics. And we look at the identity of Australia and we look at cultural heritage and care of the land and waterways. Next, we'll move on to apologies. And all councillors are present here tonight, so that's great for you in the gallery that are wanting to share your views. We all get to hear them personally. I'll call for councillors to identify if anybody has a conflict of interest.
Yes, Councillor Duffy, I have a material conflict of interest with PCC 017.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. At this stage, I suppose the next part in our meeting is to look at our minutes from the last meeting that we held a month ago, and we've got the minutes of those meetings that's circulated in the agenda, and I'd like to call if we have a mover for the minutes.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. I'll move the recommendation that the committee acting under delegation from Council confirms the minutes of the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 16th of July 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Is there a councillor? Thank you, Councillor.
Happy to second that, thank you.
Thank you for seconding those minutes. I'll put that as a motion. All in favour? Great, that's carried unanimously. On our agenda tonight, we've got one officer report. That's the Beauchies Road Special Charge Scheme. Beauchies Road is in Kangaroo Ground, and we've got 5 speakers that are registered to speak. So we might move on to... Pardon? Oh, yes, thank you, Councillor Egan. Beauchies Road. Thanks for helping me pronounce that properly. We'll call you back when you're able to return. Thank you. Okay, I've got to be eager there. So we might start by calling forward the first speaker. And I didn't introduce myself at the beginning of the meeting either. Natalie Duffy's my name, and welcome everybody. So firstly, our first speaker was Don Thompson. Don has COVID and has advised he's unable to attend for that reason tonight, and he's nominated his neighbour to speak on his behalf. And I'd like to call forward Rossley Gardner. Oh, sorry, that's going to be Heather Gardner instead. Yeah. Which is permitted? Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Heather. So when you're ready to speak, if you just press the little green, the icon with the person, and that will turn green, it'll turn your microphone on.
Madam Chair, sorry, I wasn't quite ready. I got my own water.
Would you, the other option, if you need a little bit more time, would be for you to give your presentation first. What would you prefer to do there, Heather?
I prefer to give my presentation.
You prefer to do yours first,
This,
yes.
no, this is my next door neighbours, Don Thompson's presentation.
Okay, so let's stick with that and you'll give Don's presentation
Yes.
on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I don't quite have the same gravitas as Don, but I'll do my best. We think that the scheme so far developed should be set aside and reappraised in all of its relevant parts, only one of which is the issue of road sealing. As matters stand, it is A, too costly, the road needs to be properly engineered before any sort of sealing takes place, and lastly, Council's obligation to its participation in the scheme has been very understated, given the significant use of the road by members of the community, particularly during the summer months, and the fact that the Council has control of the road reserve at the bottom end of the road. We are opposed to the scheme on account of its significant cost to residents and the unfairness which exists under the current arrangements for cost sharing. As matters stand, those who will pay most for the road are those who will use it the least. Boucher's Road is used by a variety of visitors as well as residents. The Council has a road reserve at the river end of the road. Under existing arrangements, public interest in the road appears not to have been addressed. Additionally, the Council's road reserve as a public facility appears not to have been considered. When these matters are properly considered, it will become obvious that the Council has a far greater responsibility in addressing its contribution to the cost of the road development than is presently the case. Our property is currently on the market because retirement funds are running low. At no stage in our 50-odd years of residence was it ever contemplated that we might have to face the cost of a road improvement programme. Accordingly, we, Cathy and Don Thompson, are steadfastly opposed to the scheme, which is flawed in its single-issue approach, namely road sealing, and most unfair where cost sharing is concerned. I wondered too if all of the councillors have actually seen the road. I hope everybody has seen Boucher's Road, but it is a concern in terms of more people. It is quite steep in parts, it has blind corners, which is a worry to all of us on the road.
Thank you, Heather, for speaking on behalf of Don. We're not able to ask you questions on behalf of Don because he's not here, but when you do your, come to the microphone to do your speaking, we can ask questions of you then.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing Don's point of view.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So the next speaker on the list is Rossley Gardner, also known as Paul. Welcome, Paul.
More generally known as Paul.
I saw your name here in its formal sense, so I thought I'd better read it out as it was officially typed up. Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. We have detailed our objections in our submission, and there are a number of questions that need to be answered. This project is a very expensive dust reduction proposal. Have no other alternatives to this problem been considered? Boucher's Road is an organic country road. It developed along the road reserve by avoiding existing features. As such, it's not suitable for increased traffic numbers and speed, which this project would encourage. Also, there are increasing numbers of kangaroos on the road reserve at all hours, which add to the danger. These numbers will only increase. We have discussed the proposal with other residents in the area, and they consider that once it became known that the road was sealed, there would be an increase in numbers going to the Yarra, and car parking for 100 would be required. Is this the outcome that the supporters for the project want? Any improvement of the alignment would involve extensive change, tree removal and degradation of the environment, therefore unthinkable. We question the basis for the proposed distribution of costs. How many alternatives were considered by Council before adopting the one proposed? It is demonstrably inequitable and does not conform with Council's past and current commitments to fairness and equity. Frontage does not equate to the area of the properties. For example, the properties using the same drive, 85, 95 and 105 for access, and therefore having equal benefit amenity, are proposed to be charged costs varying by thousands of dollars. What are the Council's reasons for not seeking state funding? The Yarra is an important part of the Green Wedge, of which the Shire and the state are justifiably proud. The Yarra is an important community recreation area accessed by Boucher's Road. Council's advice that the scheme will be declared at its meeting on the 27th of August would appear to be predictive and premature. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. You're welcome to stay. Well, there might be councillors who have questions further of you. Is there anyone that might like to ask Paul further information or questions on his submission tonight? No, I think that's fine. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
The next speaker is John Kelly, and so John is going to be speaking twice tonight. John, you're able to speak on behalf of yourself, and then we've also got you listed to speak on behalf of the residents of 100, 60, 80 and 95 Boucher's Road.
That's right.
So would you like to speak on behalf of the other residents first? And then if you speak on your behalf, then we can ask you questions after that. So you've got 3 minutes for your first
So
time.
because the content was the same, because I'm speaking on behalf of all the families that support the scheme, I asked the question to your governance area, if rather than speak once and say one set of content and speak twice and say exactly the same content on the basis of all the families, that I could speak once for 6 minutes on behalf of everybody.
And governance, was that agreed to?
It wasn't agreed. What I was asked to do was ask the question at the meeting tonight. I asked the question formally through your governance department, and I was told, come to the meeting tonight and ask the question. It just seemed more pragmatic to me that rather than say the same thing twice, I'd say the same content once on behalf of everybody.
I understand that.
Well, yes, but But I can speak for 3 minutes for myself, and then I can speak for 3 minutes for everybody else. So,
So through the, I'll just ask for a moment. I'll get some direction from governance so we can answer that for you.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks, John. What do you suggest? Are the rules enabling John to speak for 3 minutes twice in one group, or does he have to speak separately?
So as we have relayed to John, the rules are that it's 3 minutes for an individual and 3 minutes if they're speaking on behalf of. We don't have the ability to actually amend that unless the council or the committee in this instance. But the way I'm understanding it through him is that it's 6 minutes for essentially a broader or bigger kind of conversation. And I'd say that that's not within the rules. But it would be if they were splitting 3 minutes and 3 minutes and essentially stopping and starting and allowing for the conversation to be restarted.
Yes, so what I will do is I'll seek the councillor consensus on this, John.
Sure.
Rather than go against the
no problem.
advice of governance. Councillors, would you be more comfortable for John to speak 3 minutes for the other residents and then 3 minutes for himself, or are you in agreement to a continued timeframe of 6 minutes?
I'd uphold the governance rule, which is 3 minutes per speaker. John can say whatever he wants in 3 minutes. He can continue to speak, for the next 3 minutes. Either way, you're going to get 6 minutes.
Okay.
It needs to be clear, if we're going to ask questions, it needs to be clear which of the speeches we're
Yes.
asking questions on, which would be the second one. So I think it's important that we follow the rule and have the gap between.
I'll just ask for a show of hands. I'm in agreement with that, councillors. I think, is everybody on the same, agreeing with Councillor Perkins and Councillor Ramtran? I'm getting nods. Yes, so John, I know that was very pragmatic of you, but just so that we can follow the rules and be squeaky clean with that, it would be preferred if you could speak for 3 minutes on behalf of the residents, your neighbours, and then you have an additional 3 minutes to be able to speak on behalf of yourself with anything else that you'd like to bring forward. So in total, you will have 6 minutes, but the first 3 minutes, we will stop you then and you're able to restart on your own.
In order to prepare for that change, can I change the order?
To speak for yourself or
No,
change
no.
the order of speakers?
No, can I ask someone else to come forward while I have some time
Yes,
to prepare
that's
for that
fine.
change?
Yeah, that's
I've
fine.
got a 6-minute speech and I've got a 3-minute speech. So you've asked me now to combine the
Which is consistent with the advice we've given.
okay, well, we can do it that way. All right?
Okay, yep, and then we will ask questions at the end
Okay,
of the
no
6
problem.
minutes.
Let's do it that way.
Thank you, John. So the first 3 minutes...
I
we'll
don't mean to be difficult, I was just trying to be pragmatic.
The
that's all.
first 3 minutes we'll consider as your presentation on behalf of the residents of 100, 60, 80 and 95 Bishes Road.
Yep.
Yeah, and so we'll start the clock now for your 3 minutes. Thank you, John.
Okay, my name's John Kelly and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the families who support the scheme. You have 4 written consents and the Administrator of the Estate of 105 has provided written confirmation of their support of the submission we lodged. For clarity, 9 families are impacted by the scheme, 6 are in support, 3 oppose. We were disappointed at the council meeting on the 25th of June that several councillors admitted that they voted yes to approve the scheme due only to the council policy and fear of a successful VCAT challenge, rather than a genuine consideration of the scheme's benefits to the majority of the residents and all users. We were concerned our views would not be given equal weight in deliberations. Having said that, we appreciate the opportunity to speak to the Planning and Consultation Committee. It's important to understand the history because it gives context to the reasons why 6 families support the scheme. In addition to providing access to residential properties, the road is used as an access point to the Yarra River for recreational activities and as a CFA filling point. While Council undertook a limited and short-term traffic study, we know usage of the road and river reserve has increased. We can assume with the extension of the urban boundary and the increase in population, usage will continue to rise. Unfortunately, there are other groups that use the river reserve for unsavoury and illegal purposes, and this is well known to Council and Victoria Police. This behaviour discourages the use of legitimate users and especially families who do not want children to be exposed to these practices. These groups leave behind rubbish. Photographs have been provided to council several times, including pornographic material, which has been regularly collected and disposed of by residents. Even unsupervised campfires have been left smouldering. When challenged, residents have been faced with aggressive and threatening behaviour and Victoria Police has been called many times to intervene. We acknowledge that during 2017 and 18 the Council worked with residents to address the issues. Unfortunately, while there has been some positive impact, the River Reserve continues to offer limited amenity and is at times unsafe, particularly for families with children. So what is the point of sharing the context in the context of sealing the road? Some may argue sealing the road may exacerbate the issue, but based on our personal experiences and knowledge, one of the reasons the area is used for nefarious purposes is because it is seen as a secluded, hard-to-access location. In our view, by improving accessibility and safety, the likelihood is more legitimate users will find it easier and safer to access the area. The more people who use the River Reserve for genuine recreational purposes, the less it will be seen as an out-of-the-way and secluded location for illegal activity. And I'll actually pause there, even though I've got 9 seconds to go.
That's great. I was going to call you up at 3 minutes, so you've had a natural break in
Yep.
your presentation there for your neighbours. And so now, John, you're able to start for yourself.
Sure, thank you. Just waiting for your clock to, okay. We also noted there was a discussion at the council meeting on the 25th of June suggesting sealing of the road could negatively impact the character of the area. While character is a subjective term, we disagree there would be a negative impact. The original road was constructed many decades ago when the surrounding land was farmland. Given the ensuing subdivision and increasing usage, the road construction no longer reflects today's needs. It is very narrow, as Paul said, and in places has two dangerous blind corners. The gradient at the end of the road is incredibly slippery in wet conditions. During summer, the dust is appalling, and on some days, we literally cannot sit outside. Current road maintenance is inadequate. The surface after grading is quickly rutted and potholed, and drainage is compromised. We do appreciate that council has limited resources that will never service the real maintenance needs. The proposed design follows the existing road path, and other than limited widening for a couple of passing areas, there will be minimal other impact. In fact, improved drainage and reduction in dust will have a positive impact on the environment. We see the sealing of the road as a logical step forward in recognition of the increased usage, and it will positively contribute to the character of the area. We understand and appreciate one of the key issues for some of the families who oppose the scheme is cost, and this was discussed by councillors at the meeting on the 25th of June. We appreciate that in challenging economic times, the financial commitment expected by all families is significant. However, every family's circumstances are different, but given the small number involved and the high average cost, regardless of the broader economic climate at the time, it is likely this would always be a problem for someone. In saying that, given the extensive use of the road by many groups, we are very disappointed that other than council, no other external or government organisation is contributing to its construction. While families are funding the lion's share of the cost, others will reap the benefits, and in our view, that's unreasonable. We all knew the road was unsealed when we moved to Bushes Road, but none of us could anticipate the increasing level of usage and the continuing poor condition which it's been maintained. Nevertheless, while we believe the overall proposed cost is excessive and others should be contributing to that cost, the six families support the scheme and look forward to it going ahead. In summary, we strongly believe sealing of the road will encourage more legitimate users to enjoy the river reserve. The road will be safer, it will positively impact the character of the area, enhance the amenity enjoyed by the residents and visitors alike. We appreciate and acknowledge in approving the scheme the council has followed its own policies which we support, and in closing we wish to acknowledge and thank the CFA and Olympic Pals for their supports.
Thank you very much, John. I'll ask councillors if you have any questions for John. Thank you, Councillor Stockman.
Thanks, John, for your presentation.
No worries.
Just with the safety of the road, I've noticed that roads can get safer when they're sealed. Is the road, I haven't been there myself, but is the road safe now in its current state?
What depends on your definition of safe. There's two blind corners. We recently had it graded. After the grading, it rained. It was slippery. It required some additional toppings to be placed on it. It's dangerous at the bottom of the hill where we said it's steep. So, for example, when it's wet, there's been several occasions where people have been asked for a tow up the hill because they literally cannot get their horse floats up the hill. All of us who live on the road, and I'm sure including my colleagues on this side of the room, will have examples of where we've almost had head-ons in parts of the road. So, you know, yes, is the long version of the short answer.
Thank you. Councillor Perkins.
John, with the reserve at the end of the road, that understandably gets busy on very hot days in summer.
Yep.
When it is busy, just your estimation, you know, roughly how many cars do you think would be there?
Depends on the day, but we've had examples and photographs again being provided to the council. There's been up to 70 cars down there.
70?
Yeah.
Yep. And how many days per year would you imagine that you'd have that volume of cars?
You know, how many days do we have over 30 on a weekend in the months from October through to March or April? You know, there might be 20, I don't know. But it's used extensively.
At that sort of order, 10 to 20?
Yeah, but I don't want to just give an anecdotal answer to say there's 70 there 20 times a year.
Yeah.
There's regularly lots of cars parked there on very hot days.
Yeah, so that's the time, the very hot days.
Yeah.
The rest of the year, it's not an issue.
Not so much an issue with parking, the issue is with the types of use of the road in parts of the year.
And the end of the road?
Yeah.
In terms of the Crown land?
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
Yes. That's what I referred to at the start of my presentation when I talked about the undesirable and unsavoury activity.
Okay.
And we haven't got enough time to share the 50 war stories about what has happened and happens at the end of the road and the consequences for people who live at that part of the road.
So that's happening right throughout the year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, you could go down on any lunchtime, on any day, and if you really wanted to, you could go find what's going on.
Right. Okay, thanks for that. I assumed that sort of thing was happening in the summer. Yeah,
No.
right. Okay. Because I know that there was, it's probably not a question, but there was a move from council to close the end of the street some years back. Yeah.
It was during 2017 and 18, with the council support, you trialled and we trialled the closing of the road, made it only available to residents. Obviously, that was a hard impact because it solved the problem primarily for a period of time. When the road was reopened, it's fair to say that it took some time before that behaviour became prevalent again, but as people become familiar with the fact it's reopened, the situation just returned to the way it was.
So you believe that sealing the road will lessen those activities throughout the year?
No, what we're saying is sealing the road, and we understand that the risk is it will increase the volume of traffic that goes down there, and that is a risk, but we also hope that making it more attractive and appealing for families to get down there, that the type of usage will change. People go there because they think, I'll sneak down Boucher's Road. It's a quiet, dusty little road down in the corner. People don't like to drive their nice cars down that road, and they don't want to be seen going down there because it is so secluded, so they won't come down. If it's like Bradley's Lane, for example, everyone will drive down to the bottom of Bradley's Lane because it's a nice drive down there. There's a little car park at the end and you can go swimming. We anticipate that it'll be more inviting for the right sort of behaviour. And from our perspective, we want people to use it for appropriate recreational purposes. We like to see people canoeing on the river, swimming in the river, fishing on the river, painting on the river. That's what it's there to enjoy.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. I'll ask if there are any other councillors that have questions for John. John, I was down there today. I went for a drive.
Oh, good.
And there were 3 cars parked,
Yep.
and it was 2 o'clock on a Tuesday.
Yep.
So it's the end of winter. So
Yep.
I can imagine how busy it must get when the weather is good.
It is.
The question that I had for you was more about the safety angles that you mentioned. You know, the narrow road. And so, are you anticipating with sealing that council would widen the road to make it safe for cars going up and down to pass?
There's a couple of spots already where there is an unformed passing area. So there are parts of the road where 2 cars can park. There's no problems there. There's areas that have been naturally formed where they are passing areas. They are proposed to be made as part of the construction. On the 2 corners that are blind, the proposal is that there'll be a centre line placed in that section of the road so that as people are approaching both sides of those blind corners, they'll see a natural centre line. Right now it's just a dirt road and, you know, people will just fly up the middle of the road, be confronted with someone else on the other side. So there is a slight widening of it on the 2 corners. There's a making of the 2 areas that are passing base, but other than that, it just follows the current shape of the road.
Do you have an opinion on the beginning of the road, the Y intersection? When I was driving out today to come back towards Eltham, you know, to my surprise, there was a car quickly that I didn't see that was coming to the left as I was going into it. So I am interested in your perspective of the safety design, whether that needs to be considered to be a T intersection.
Look, the only way to properly resolve that in the long term is to create a T intersection between Boucher's Road and Menzies Road. I understand that that's been something that's been discussed for many years. It's not contemplated as part of this scheme because it would add significant cost to the scheme. So the proposal is to shape some of that corner that you came around. That's actually my property that is on that corner there.
You're on the left as I'm driving out? Okay.
And there's been a few occasions where I've come out to find someone resting on a tree on the outside of the road because they've come off the road as they've come around the corner and confronted another vehicle. But the right way would be to create a T intersection and to get rid of the blind corner. But the proposal is to at least widen it slightly, put a centre line in so that at least you can see as you're driving up the road, I've got to stay left of the centre line. And that will make a difference.
Thank you very much for your comments.
That's uneducated. That's just a resident's view of what we see using the road.
Using the road.
I'm not an engineer or a...
But you're there more frequently than our
Yes,
engineers
we
and
are.
us, so I value your lived experience. And I've noticed that Councillor Perkins has another question for you.
Thank you. Just in the report, John, it talks about, reports to us that there were multiple information sessions and task group meetings.
Yep.
You attended those?
Yep.
Was there a broad representation? Was also people who don't support sealing of the road attended?
Yes, there was.
Do you believe that the meetings and the information sessions did anything to appease their concerns? Like, was the scheme improved?
Well, I think there was consensus, as there has always been. Paul mentioned it and Don mentioned it, that the road is used extensively for other purposes. You did a traffic study, but we don't think it necessarily reflects the real usage of the road by others as opposed to the residents. So our common view was that, aside from the construction issues and the costs and so forth, that logic said others have to contribute to this because everybody else is going to get a benefit from this, not just the 9 families who live on the road. So I don't think there was always consensus on that point, and that remains the case. I don't think, given the circumstances of each family, I can't answer on behalf of their personal financial circumstances, but all I can say is that it is incredibly challenging for all of us, given there's a small number. You know, my personal commitment is expected to be $46,000. And in the world I live in, that's a big issue. But I believe, as my friends over here believe, that in the long term it will be of benefit for all of us.
John, there's 2 properties for which council is responsible for.
Yep.
One being under the ownership of the Crown and the others council-owned properties.
Yep.
And you know, you're aware that council's contributing
Yep.
$57,000?
Yeah, we are, yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
So over
absolutely
and above
we're
that,
aware.
you think council should be contributing more?
Well, I'm not just saying council. There's multiple agencies that are represented at that end of the river, not just council.
Well, council is in control of the Crown land. It's council's responsibility to pay for its share of the...
Well, we would say that others who are responsible for that end of the road, if there are others who you are acting on their behalf or you are managing on their behalf, and my colleague over here, Rob, will probably talk about those other agencies, that others should be contributing to it. And if that means the council has to go out and source that funding, that's what we were hoping.
Okay, thank you.
Does that make sense, Peter?
It's the property owners, those people in control of the properties that have to foot the bill. That's the policy. That's
I know
Right,
it's
so-
the
so
policy,
council-
but we would say, as Don said and as Paul said, we believe that this is a unique circumstance. We understand the policy. We understand why you're applying it in the method you are. We, on this side of the table, reluctantly accept that, but we believe, given the circumstances and the nature of the road's use, that it is different. That's just how we see it.
Yep. But would you accept that it's difficult to get any government to contribute more money than they have to?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, John. And I hear loud and clear from both sides of the room today. It's funny how you've accidentally sat on the left and the right with those who are opposing and those who are consenting with this. The community benefit that you're indicating that this road is used by others, whether that's the CFA, whether it's council, whether it's the people that come to use the beauty, the Yarra for its recreation. There are others, and there's a community benefit that would occur with the sealing of this. So thank you for speaking with us tonight. And,
Thank
you know,
you for
you're all
listening.
very lucky to live where you are. I went for a drive for the first time today and I fell in love with your area.
Point of order, we've still got Andrew to listen to.
I'm sorry, my mistake there. I had a skip of mind and I thought that you were the last speaker for a moment there, John. So please resume your seat. And I've just turned my page and yes, there is another speaker. Thank you, Councillor Perkins, for that point of order. Andrew Gunter, I'd like to call you forward. So Andrew is here of Hunt and Hunt Lawyers and he's speaking on behalf of Peter Anthony Robin Bassett and Janet Christina Bassett-Smith. Sorry, Rob and Janet Bassett-Smith and the company Galvex nominees. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr Mayor and councillors. You will have received my letter of the 2nd of August and if in the event you had only the redacted copy, you also now have the unredacted copy for reference. But in essence, rather than going through that letter in detail, I would like to say that I'll be available to answer any questions either at the end of the 3 minutes or the end of the agenda item or the end of the meeting, whichever council wishes. You'll note that the Bassett-Smiths are very concerned about the scope of the works proposed, that there's an issue of safety. If you have a faster travelling surface on the current alignment or something that's very close to the current alignment, there's the risk that safety might be further compromised beyond its current state. That given the circumstances of the road, that sealing the road at this point seems premature when there are alternative lower cost options for the short term, such as the dust suppressant that can be applied, and then in the medium to long term when sealing might be warranted, that the seal is compatible with the dust suppressant that could be put down in the short term. So those are matters that can improve the current circumstances of the road at considerably lesser short-term cost. I also submit that there have been some departures from the special charge scheme principles in the design of this proposal. The public versus private benefit is a significant issue. The Yarra River is surprisingly to some a public highway in the sense that it is capable of being used by those who want to use it recreationally to traverse along the Yarra, and they use Butchers Road as an access point to the river from time to time. The CFA uses it, and that is a public benefit that has perhaps not been factored into the tables that council has created in developing the proposal. Then we have the issue of, as between the various private owners, the table supporting the proposal doesn't sufficiently deal with the sidage versus frontage question. There are certainly for the Bassett-Smiths, one of the dwellings on the property accesses via Menzies Road, and any border that part of the property has with Butchers Road should be treated as a sidage, and the frontage as Menzies Road, where it generally gains access. For example, and that the resultant calculations and the table as a whole lacks a reflection of the reality on the ground.
Thank you very much. I'll need to call you up at that point. You've used your 3 minutes.
I didn't separately ask to speak for Galvex nominees, but...
Oh, right, okay. We'll seek governance guidance on that. Was there a request for speaking for both, or was that a combined
So through the chair, there wasn't a formal request, but is making that request tonight.
Okay. So we'll allow that 3 minutes to speak on behalf of Galvex as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there an official email to do that to governance? Like everybody else had to do it in the road? We all had to email you to request permission to jump in.
Yeah, I'll take it from here. Point of order. I don't think that decision. I'd like to challenge the the decision of the chair. It's highly inappropriate to allow Mr Gunn to speak for another 3 minutes. He hasn't registered on behalf of Galvic's nominees. He's had his 3 minutes. If the chair's going to continue along this, I'll call for a motion to disagree with the ruling of the chair.
Excuse me, may I say I did send the emails and they quite clearly state both.
I'll speak with governance.
So through the chair, the advice through governance is that it was one request, and it said that Mr Gutner was going to speak on behalf of the residents' names and the company. It wasn't a request to speak on 2 separate occasions.
There were 2 emails and we have 3 titled properties on Boucher's Road,
That's the
2
advice.
of which are signage to Menzies Road.
Just noting from a governance perspective, interaction with the...
Okay, thank you very much for the submission that you've given and for the letter that has been received by all councillors. I will be fair as the process is that you do need to put in a formal request to be able to speak twice. I'm getting advice from governance that the request that they received was that you would speak on behalf of the residents and the company in one go. And hearing the feelings of Councillor Perkins in the confidence of the decision that I made to give you the additional 3 minutes, I will withdraw that to be fair with everybody else in the room. So thank you, Andrew, for what you've presented tonight. And because you are speaking on behalf of another group, we aren't able to ask you direct questions.
Indeed. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor.
As my interpretation of the governance rules, yeah. So that kind of brings us to the conclusion of listening to submissions tonight. We do acknowledge that this is a lot of money and that there is a policy in place, and we are going to be moving this to, I'll put it forward to a councillor to be able to move a motion for tonight for us to vote on. Thank you, Councillor Ramtran.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I'd like to move that the committee acting under delegation from Council 1 acknowledges and considers the 5 submissions received and any presentations to the committee regarding the declaration of the special charge scheme to seal Boucher's Road Kangaroo Ground. 2, requests a further report to be presented at the 27th of August 2024 Council meeting to consider declaration of the Boucher's Road special charge scheme Kangaroo Ground. And 3, resolves that the confidential unredacted copies of the written submissions to the Boucher's Road special charge scheme in attachment 3 remain confidential on the grounds specified in the definition of confidential information in section 3.1f of the Local Government Act 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Ramtran. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Would anyone like to speak to the motion? Thank you, Councillor Ramtran.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Duffy. Look, thank you to everyone who's come in today. We've heard all of you loud and clear, but of course it's difficult when we have one group asking for one thing and one group asking for another. We simply won't please everyone. And what we have here is a policy that we are following. So we will take on board everything that you've had to say today, and a decision will be made on the 27th of August at our council meeting. Just to say, I have read through all of the submissions that have been made. I'm sure my other colleagues have as well, and also have read through emails that have been sent through today. So thank you to the people who've sent me information today as well. That won't go unnoticed. It won't go unread. It won't go unconsidered. And so anything you didn't get a chance to say today to the meeting, please have confidence that we will read it and we will take that on board as well. And we'll see what decision council makes on the 27th. Thank you.
Councillor Eyre, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just wanted to acknowledge that I heard everything that's been said. I've read all of the information. I've also been on Boucher's Road as well. I can certainly understand the feelings from both sides, and yeah, just really wanted to say that I also acknowledge what the Mayor has said as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors wish to speak tonight? No, okay. I would just like to, in summary, say thank you very much for coming and speaking and sharing your words with us. I agree with Councillor Ramtran and Councillor Eyre in that I've read all of the information that's been presented as well, and I went for a drive today so I could see for myself what was actually being discussed. So it's not just theoretical, reading things on paper, I could see it for myself. So I have a much clearer picture of the landscape and, you know, when you're talking about the way the road is used and the benefits that you see from either keeping it sealed or not sealed. I'm in a much better position to understand how you feel, and particularly where the street frontages are and where there are double blocks, battle axe blocks, etc. But importantly, I heard from both of you positions tonight, those for the ceiling and those not for the ceiling, that there's a cost of living issue at the moment. It is very expensive. I appreciate that. There was a call to look at who else benefits from this road and the community benefit that is proposed to be considered, and even other agencies for those who use the road, which I'll explore with council officers where I might be able to. I'm not saying predetermining any outcome here. I'm just wanting to say that I've listened to what you've said as well, in the same way as the other councillors. So with that, we'll put the motion to the vote, knowing that this was a chance to listen to the community tonight, and the decision will be taking place at the meeting in 2 weeks' time at the August council meeting. So I'll call for a motion. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. At this point, we'll welcome Councillor Egan back into the room. Welcome back, Councillor Egan. The next part of our meeting is looking at any supplementary or urgent business, and there is none. Any confidential items, confidential reports, and there is none. So with that, we will conclude the meeting. I declare that the meeting's closed at 7:47. I'd like to thank everybody for coming along and sharing your points of view today. Thank you, councillors, for your attendance and your comments.